Hey, this is Matt once again. Welcome back to another video. This is another paid request, this time for Damien. Thank you so much for that. And for those interested in requesting pretty much any type of videos or topics, reviews, reactions, commentaries, randomness, out of the blueness, whatever it may be, feel free to send it either directly to my PayPal or join my Patreon. Both links are down below in the info box. And like I've said before, in the next series of videos, I apologize if I seem worn out. I've just been decently sick. And that's the thing with me. When I rarely get sick, but then when I get sick, it lasts for like weeks. At least that's what it feels like. So again, I apologize, but I will still continue to do requests because it's the least I can do, and I really appreciate the people out there who send them. Again, you can send me either directly to my PayPal or join my Patreon. Both links are down below in the info box. So thank you very much. And again, Damien, thank you for this. He wanted me to talk about A Scanner Darkly from 2006. Now, this is directed by Richard Linklater. Now, Richard Linklater, definitely a director who's done films you recognize a variety of sort. I mean, it's strange that the guy who did this, they did the Bad News Bears remake with Billy Bob Thornton, and he'll do films that seem a bit more commercial, but then he'll do films like this, definitely much more artistic. Now, this is based on a Philip K. Dick story, and apparently it was one of Philip's more personal stories about drug addiction, paranoia. Now, this is a time where you had films like Paycheck with Ben Affleck. You had Minority Report with Tom Cruise. And then before that, you have films like Streamers, which is an underrated sci-fi film, in my opinion, with Peter Weller. And of course, back to the day, you have Blade Runner. So quite a few stories based on a Philip K. Dick novel. And I've liked a lot of them. Maybe a lot of people who's really loving the source material don't care for them, but I like them. And if you hear background noise, it's my computer. I have a fan underneath to keep it cool, just in case. So, but this one, there was notice taken about it because of the way it was filmed. Because it's live action, but it's also animation. It's done with the technique of rotoscoping. Now, Richard Linklater did this for a film called Waking Life before it. It's pretty much, imagine me talking like this, moving my hands, but they take it and they draw over the person. I believe that's how the original cartoons of some of the Superman Fleischer cartoons, at least with the people involved, not the more fanciful stuff, but like the old 1940s Superman cartoons, I also believe that's how heavy metal, at least some bits of heavy metal, well, I'm not sure if it was heavy metal, if it did it. I know Masters Universe, the He-Man cartoon, back in the day, did some of that. And this one, of course, is more so when it came out in 2006. And the reason the director went with this technique is to give a sense of drug haze where you watch it and it's real, but it's not real, and it gives this... I know for some people, when you look up reviews, they felt it was creepy, they felt it was disorienting, kind of like a drug trip. And to me, it's interesting. I do feel that other than the scramble suit and about 2 or 3 little hallucinatory scenes, I think it was more of a gimmick. Meaning, I do think there's more they could have done. I know people are like, oh, well, I'm glad I didn't go full out and hallucinatory. I mean, the few scenes he do is one character sees his 2 buddies. He looks over and they look kind of like bugs, and he steps out of it. Or one character sees another character and pictures him picturing a waitress opening her top and being topless. And then the scramble suit was a neat idea. But at the same... it was interesting to watch visually. I'm just saying I don't think this is a film that could not be done without rotoscoping. I guess that's where I'm coming at. But hey, you know, they wanted to be a little bit different. So be it. The cast, you have Keanu Reeves as our lead, who is an undercover cop who wears one of these scramble suits. A scramble suit is pretty much, which, again, that's the neatest effect in the movie. When you're wearing the suit, it's like a costume you put all over yourself, and these flashing images keep appearing of different faces and different body types. It's like the perfect camouflage. Or one of the, yeah, in a way, is the perfect camouflage. It's scrambling all these different appearances in order to keep someone completely unidentified. And of course, it goes to the story about loss of identity because of drug usage, paranoia, or something else entirely. But yeah, Keanu Reeves is undercover. He's supposed to look into this substance called Substance D. Apparently, this takes place in a time where 20% of the population are addicted. And the cast of characters, he is undercover in this place where you have Robert Downey Jr. This is 2 years before Iron Man. So this is before Robert Downey Jr. really got his comeback. Because Robert Downey Jr. is a good actor, and he was doing these early films, but then when he got into the late 90s, he got heavily into drugs. Mid to late 90s, and then the films he was doing weren't really the best. And even some of the films that were decent, like U.S. Marshals with Tommy Lee Jones, the sequel to The Fugitive, I like, but I think Robert Downey Jr. said, that's one of the worst films I made. I'm like, no, it's not, dude. I mean, I'll take that over Danger Zone with you and Billy Zane. I'll take that over, what was that one with Anthony Michael Hall? Caesar something? Like Anthony Michael Hall, Robert Downey Jr., and like Sam Jackson, and it's like a crazy Hail Caesar. Like U.S. Marshals better than Hail Caesar. But this is when he's starting to get the comeback, doing these roles like Kiss Kiss Bang Bang in this movie. I think Zodiac was soon after, and then that went up to Iron Man. And which he made so much money that he doesn't have to act again. But he does a good job here. He's a conspiracy theorist type of guy. I could tell he probably used a bit of his drug usage history to get a bit into the role. But he's a guy that he thinks he's smarter than he really is. He sounds very intelligent in his thesis, but at the same time, it's like, well, how foolish is this guy? But in a weird way, he was right that he's being watched, just he thinks he's being watched for terrorists when it's really cops. But again, a guy who's full of himself. And then the other roommate is Woody Harrelson. And again, this is before even Woody was doing decent. I mean, before this, years before, you had White Men Can't Jump and others, but, you know, this is before Zombieland. This is before the first season of True Detective, which I still need to get on Blu-ray, but I want to find one that's affordable and not cost an arm and a leg. With him and Matthew McConaughey, that was a good season. Among other stuff Woody did. And I kind of wish Woody Harrelson... I kind of wish Woody Harrelson was in it more, but at the same time, I'm not saying he's not in the film a lot, but when it was Keanu and Robert Downey Jr. and Woody Harrelson, the three of them, to me, that was kind of the more interesting parts. Even though I will say the plot at times feels like it's spinning its wheels, and maybe that's the purpose, is because maybe with drug addiction, as a guy who's never experienced it, I mean, I'm taking a little bit of this, but that's not the same as this. Maybe with drug addicts, the little points become a huge adventure. Like there's this whole bit where the Keanu Reeves is driving and something's wrong with the car, and then they have this whole paranoia thing. Did someone do this on purpose? Is someone back there? Did they steal all our stuff? Oh my God. someone lit a joint in our place, and you're trying to find out that there's someone else there that's one of their friends. It's like, it was all for nothing. But I get it, that's to show the paranoia, but it does feel as if sometimes it's spinning its wheels, and you're kind of wondering, okay, where's this actually going? Also with Philip K. Dick, I know it's not Philip K. Dick, but in a way, if I want to see a film that's very... People don't get mad at me for saying this, but I didn't mind the film, but I would say kind of a... Depending on which direction you want to take in, there are films I just prefer over this, dealing with the drug plot, however you want to put it, the psyche. If it's to show the damage, Requiem for a Dream, to me, is much more effective in its point and its style and say no to drugs type of pontification. Or Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas with Johnny Depp, where this haze of drugs while Johnny Depp is being this reporter, and just the craziness and the haze and the drug bender, and I got more out of those two films than this. Not that I thought this film was bad, it's just those two films I got more out of. I don't know how else to put it. And they're two different types of drug movies. But I mean, Keanu Reeves, I thought he did a decent enough job. I thought that there are moments where you see a bit of the, almost the pain in his face when he's in the scramble suit and he's losing track of his own identity because he's supposed to pretend to be this person, but then at the same time his commander, who also has a scramble suit, is telling him you need to observe this person as way I'm observing myself, and I'm losing myself, and maybe he did or didn't have a family, as in a wife and 2 kids, or did he just make him believe in himself because his mind is being broken down by this drug that he's taking. And then he starts losing it a bit, where again he sees his buddies who are like turning to bugs, and he's freaked out by it, but then he snaps out of it. There's a point that Keanu sleeps with someone, and then when he turns, she looks like someone else, and it's almost as if the two sides of his brain are fighting with each other. And that's when the plot gets a little bit into more of a gear. The other people in the film, Winona Ryder, she's there as kind of Keanu Reeves' girlfriend, but she's also a drug dealer. Or Rory Cochrane from Dazed and Confused, speaking of Richard Linklater. He's a guy that we first see him, he's imagining all these bugs on him, and that's a way of using the visual aesthetic well. That'd be a bit hard to do practical. It'd be hard to do live action. Not impossible, because I don't know if you want to take a little bit from Joe's Apartment, for all three that remember that movie with Jerry O'Connell, that MTV movie. But that's where the rotoscoping works, where no matter what Rory Cochrane's doing, these bugs won't get out of it. And I thought, okay, that shows how far this guy has gone, that he's imagining all these bugs, then he turns, and then the bugs are gone. I guess I thought there would be a lot more of that, and there's not as much of this drug hallucinatory stuff. It's more kind of people talking in a car, or people talking, or the scramble suits, where Keanu and his commanding officer are talking to each other. Alex Jones even makes a cameo, which I forgot, because I've seen this film once before a long time ago. I forgot Alex Jones was in this, because there's a bit where Keanu Reeves is walking home, and there's a guy with a bullhorn. And it's fucking Alex Jones, which I was surprised. I don't know why. I was like, wow, Alex Jones is in this? I wonder if that's any deep meaning about that or just whatever. And I do think Keanu has some nice moments. I would say my favorite bit is there's this little monologue he does when he goes home, and that even though he knows people, he still feels alone. And he's it is the moment that does capitalize him losing himself. That, yeah, I can't see who I am anymore. But what does a scanner, when people scan me, will it see who I am? Does a scanner see clearly or darkly? And if the scanner can't do it, if the scanner can't see who I am, then I guess there's a part of me, I know it's based on a Philip K. Dick story. I kind of wish more of the story was just about Keanu Reeves losing himself and then maybe working himself back up from this drug addiction. The undercover cop stuff was, I guess, just not as interesting to me compared to that story. I guess I wanted more of Keanu Reeves seeing this stuff and losing himself, and I think it'd be cool that if, like, there's a scene where Keanu Reeves looks at a mirror and he sees someone else's face. And then maybe he looks at another mirror and he sees another face. And because he's had the scramble suit from time to time, and maybe or a scene where he's looked at the scramble suit, and maybe he takes it off, and then he turns and he still sees the scramble suit, and he still, or like there's a moment where anytime he looks at a reflection, he can't see his face. I don't know, just even more down that road. Because again, that's what I would say was more interesting to me than the undercover cop storyline. And I don't know if I would say it's predictable, but if you've seen enough films, you could kind of see, well, not where it's going, but some parts of it. What I mean by it's spoilers, starting out spoilers. You find out that, yeah, there's this undercover cop job, and yeah, Robert Downey Jr. thinks Keanu Reeves is a terrorist. He comes in, but then they arrest Robert Downey Jr. But then Keanu Reeves' boss saying, hey, we looked at your results. You've taken too much of this drug. You gotta go to this rehab in this place called New Path, which is like the big company of the country with a nice front, nice face to it. So then Keanu Reeves' character goes into that rehab, and then when the supervisor takes the scramble suit off, I'm like, it's Winona Ryder, isn't it? And it is, it's Winona Ryder. And that's what I mean, like, I don't think it was predictable, the plot of, oh, the whole point of this film, story-wise, the cops were trying to get one of their own so hopped up on drugs so that New Path would believe him as such a drug addict, and it's like the ultimate undercover job. And even Winona Ryder later, she feels guilty. It's like, we didn't even give him a choice, and I'm going to quit because of this, because I can't do this anymore. And her cop buddies trying to be like fucking savior, Jesus or whatever. Hey, it was for the good, and God made a plan. I'm like, fuck you, dude. Take your plan, shove it up your well-laid ass. But you well-laid plan up your well-laid ass. But it's okay, this supervisor, the fact he's in a scramble suit, I'm like, there's a reason why that person's in a scramble suit. It's probably going to be some kind of surprise. And it's not Robert Downey Jr. It can't be Rory Cochrane. So it would either be Woody Harrelson, which would be random, or it would be Winona Ryder. Oh, it's probably Winona Ryder because that's why the character doesn't want to kiss Keanu Reeves and doesn't want to get close to Keanu Reeves. Okay, there's something to it. Maybe predictable is not the wrong word. No, predictable is the wrong word. It's just, when it was revealed, I went, oh yeah. Yeah, that figures. Not, oh shit, but like, oh yeah, that figures. Yeah, that kind of reaction. But at the same time, I don't know how else they could have done it. And then super spoilers for the ending. Keanu goes into rehab. I wish there was more of Keanu in the rehab to showcase what the rehab ups and downs are. He pretty much goes in, he sees Rory Cochran's there, and then he's picked up flowers. And the bosses go, oh, there's nothing down there. There's no flowers. Yeah, you can't see them because your brain is fucked up. But when they leave, he looks down, he does see the flowers. So there's a couple brain cells working. He picks a flower. When he's able to be let go for Thanksgiving, he's going to take the flower to Winona Ryder or someone, and his job will be done, and they'll take down New Path, and they're the ones growing the drug, and the rehab company is actually the facilitator of the drug. There was a part of me that kind of wondered what the point of the film was, where it was a distrust of authority, because authority fucked over Keanu Reeves, and he was undercover cop, but yet the cops used that trust or that idea against him. I think I read somewhere that they want to make a drug movie, but they didn't want to make it so anti-drug. But at the same time, I'm like, well, it has to be, because this substance is fucking your head up so much, it's killing your brain cells, and your left and right hemispheres not even working properly. So this is awful, but at the same time, it's like they didn't want to go full dark like Requiem for a Dream. And if you want to hold that back, again, I think Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas did that a bit better. And I think that's why I liked in that movie at the end, where with all the crazy hijinks that happen with Johnny Depp and Benicio del Toro, there's that bit in the diner at the end where, with all the points of narration, all the points of Johnny Depp having this and that to say, when he sees Del Toro treat this poor diner lady like crap and she didn't deserve it, it's like the one sobering moment for Johnny Depp where he's like, it's silent, it's awkward, he realizes what Del Toro did was too far, and there's no smart ass, there's no diatribe, it was just kind of, again, the moment that he sobered up, at least for a little bit. At least that's how I took it. And like I said, Requiem for a Dream is a horror movie. If you want a movie that tells you don't take drugs, that's what. So again, I can't really say I get the idea. Yeah, I could read it up, but that almost feels like cheating reading it up. It's at least an interesting movie. I like the cast. I like the visual aesthetic of it. Again, I do think there were points where the pacing hurt it. Like I said, kind of spinning its wheels a bit too much. I wouldn't say it's a downbeat ending, because there's a bit of hope for Keanu Reeves' character, at least. But it's just, again, I kind of almost want to think, like, what was the point of the movie? I'm sure, I know it went over my head, but I guess just how drugs, but at the same time, it wasn't just drugs. It was also being lied to by people you're supposed to trust, like the police. Literally feeding him. I mean, Winona Ryder was the captain. You know, Hank, the boss, Hank. And she's literally the dealer giving him these drugs to take them, to purposely get him addicted, to put him in there. So it's like, yeah, it's an anti-drug movie, but at the same time, it's maybe that's another thing. Maybe it's a slap at the higher ups that don't take responsibility, even though they should, for maybe driving people into circumstances. Yeah, I don't know for sure. It's not a film I love. I know a lot of people give it like 5 out of 5 stars, but it's not a movie I hate either. It's a movie I saw once before. See this again. I don't think I would ever see the film again, but it's at least interesting. It's at least a bit different. It's at least a bit off the beaten path. I don't know, when I see movies of today and how... It's funny, I just saw like the trailer to the Chainsaw Massacre, the new one. And I'm like, you know what? I'd rather take something interesting like this that at least tries to swing for the fences over another fucking... What it would be? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8th, 9th Texas Chainsaw fucking Massacre movie? Yeah, there's 4, a remake, a prequel to a remake, 3D, Leatherface. So it would be like the 9th fucking one. Jesus. Anyway, thanks for watching. Take care. Thanks once again, Damien. We'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.